So, researchers at University College London met with 24 volunteers and made them virtually navigate through the windy streets of the Soho district here in London. Those who did not have access to GPS to navigate through those streets, they used two parts of the brain specifically, the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, that are used for mapping in your mind and for decision making and for your memory. Those who did use the GPS, or as they call it here, sat nav, they didn't use those parts of the brain. They sort of switched it off. So researchers have found that those parts of your brain simply aren't developed if you keep using a GPS, which might explain some of those stories we've heard in recent years, like that woman in Ontario who drove right into Lake Huron last year following her GPS, or another woman in northern New Brunswick who spent 3 days on a logging road in the middle of the woods. Here's one of the main researchers talking about the impact on your brain by using a GPS.
You're no longer engaging those bits of your brain that you would do normally if you're using your memory to sort of pick apart the street network as you navigate. So effectively, the sat-nav is turning off the engagement of these brain areas.
So interesting, Thomas. And what's interesting is anybody who's had the opportunity to be in London and to be in one of those London black cabs knows that cabbie drivers in the city where you are just extraordinary at finding their way around. And there's previous work that speaks to that and kind of underlines what we're hearing more about today, right?
Yeah, this research was done a few years ago, and it found that, I talked about the hippocampus, part of the brain, a second ago. It turns out London cab drivers have among the most developed, best developed hippocampi in the world. Our driver today, his name is Richard. Hi, Richard. He, like every other cab driver here in London, did the test known as the knowledge that tests your knowledge of the 25,000 streets around the British capital, all the landmarks, and if you don't know them, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 years to do that test and remember everything. If you don't know them, you don't get to drive a cab. And one thing about black cabs here in London is they always know how to get from point A to point B, Heather.